Shalom, friends. I'm going to tell you about the first woman in Jewish lore, not the Eve who believed a snake with an MLM. In the words of Lady Gaga, let me take you to the Garden of Eden to meet Chava Rishona. Welcome to Jewish Lore Reactions, the first Eve. There are many creation stories in Judaism. The story found in Genesis Bereshit includes multiple versions within itself. And that multiplicity serves as an ongoing catalyst for a vibrant, expansive, multiverse garden of overlapping, sometimes contradictory legends for us to explore. In the beginning, you may have heard this part before, God created the heaven and the earth. The earth was unformed and void. Darkness was on the surface of the deep. And God said, "Let there be light." And it was lit. And that was just like the first day. Then, over the next few days, God made literally everything else. Dry land, plants, the sun, moon, and stars, and all living creatures. Toward the end of creation, God made mystical things, like the opening to hell, the magical Shamir worm,
demons,
and the most magical and mystical of all, tongs. True story. God gathered some dirt and mixed it with water, made clay, and with that formed the very first human being, Adam, which literally means human being. I mean, a little on the nose naming wise, but what are you gonna do? Then God breathed the breath of life into Adam's nostrils, and Adam gained sentience. One Genesis account says that Adam was an intersex being with both male and female external sex characteristics. Has anyone told the Republicans about this? The other account says at this point Adam was male, with the potential for Eve, Chava's existence contained within him in the form of a rib. Either way, God gave Adam the job of naming all of the animals in the garden. However, all the other animals had gone through cuffing season already before Adam was even created and got there, and they had all found significant others. In fact, several penguins had already thrown lavish weddings. They were already dressed for it. TBH, Adam was getting relationship FOMO. God noticed this and said to God's self, "It's not good for the human to be alone. They're sulking a lot, and their animal mates are getting more and more unoriginal. I mean, come on. Blobfish? That's just embarrassing for everybody. At least human being had a little bit of dramatic mystique. I'll make Adam a partner." This was so great in theory. So depending on the version of the story, God either hacksaws them apart to create two different entities, male and female, or grew a whole separate woman from Adam's side. Thus there was Adam, the first man, and a woman, Chava Rishona. Unfortunately, God had made the interesting choice to assemble Chava Westworld style. Every second of this transpired in front of a fully traumatized Adam. He had not been awake for his own creation, and it turns out the first man was actually squeamish as fuck. He was like, "Someone's gonna need to sedate me. I wanna be sedated." So when God said, "Look what I made," and brings Chava to him, Adam is like, "Nope, no. I've got the ick. I cannot do this. I'm just not ready for this kind of commitment." And to Chava he said, "It's not me, it's definitely you." And Adam did his best impression of the Homer Simpson hides in the bushes meme. He couldn't cope with seeing a human woman who hadn't been made pretty and sanitized for his comfort, and he is sickened. Which is how you know at this point he really was a human man, and also the first misogynist. I'd say hashtag not all men, except literally it was all men because there weren't any others. Chava stood there alone, a new being, the first woman. The first woman to be abandoned by a man who didn't deserve her. The first woman to be told she was not enough and too much at the same time, on the very first day of her existence. I believe in that moment she found strength in an ancient source, one that would later be known as the Bavli monologue. Sorry, wait, I misspoke. The Barbie monologue. It's literally impossible to be a woman. I have to always be extraordinary, but somehow I'm doing it wrong. I have to be thin, but not skeletal, because he doesn't want to know that I have a skeleton. I have to be co-boss over the earth, but not over my husband, even though he's literally made of earth. I can't squash a man's ideas by telling him that naming a blobfish merely reveals how uninteresting it is inside of his mind. Women have to answer for man's bad behavior, which is insane, and the reason I, for one, will never speak to a snake running an MLM. I have to stay pretty for a man, but that's impossible when that man has seen my skull with no skin on it. But always stand out and always be grateful. But never forget that the system is rigged, and that the revulsion he demonstrates reflects a deeply negative worldview of women's bodies on the part of the storytellers. It turns out, in fact, that not only am I doing everything wrong, but everything is also my fault. I was just created. And I'm already exhausted. Adam, who was melting down, asked God to please dispose of this woman ASAP. So God disappeared Chava Rishona. And yeah, I feel some type of way about that. So it was that Adam became the first victim of the tragic male loneliness epidemic through his own choices. He begged God for a hotter wife. I'm just looking for one that will excite me all night and not have me think about gross things like intestines and bile ducts, because it's a real turnoff, honestly. This time, God did knock Adam out, because ignorance really is bliss. And God began to work on Wife 2.0. And when Adam woke up, he found his stunningly beautiful bride as requested. But maybe he should have been more careful what he wished for. Because while this bride could have been Eve the Second, she could have also been somebody else. To be continued.